Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. You join us here in Marbella and we're going to be doing a property Q&A today. So if you follow us over on Instagram, you would have seen the Q&A box that we put up and we've had loads and loads of questions. So thank you so much for that. I'm sure a lot of you want to know what we're going to talk about. So
yeah.
We've actually got something exciting first that we did.
We did a little story to say whoever subscribes to our new vlog channel, which is this channel now, we're going to give away 2 free property ebooks. So in our ebook, it's a 33-page e-guide with like all the information. We've got a website down below where you can see what's exactly in it, but there's also templates that we use, so spreadsheet templates, ROI calculators, and the letter template that we use to buy off-market properties, because we've actually got a few off-market, and we tell you the exact writing that we use in our letter and how to send them. And if this is the first video that you've seen of us, maybe we should introduce ourselves as well.
Yeah,
somebody
for
might have
sure.
just clicked this.
So it may be,
okay.
So it may be worth you going to briefly check out our main channel, which will also be, we'll link below. That will give you a better idea of what we do. So that's our main business essentially now, that YouTube channel. You can also see tours of our own investment properties. We've documented them for the past, well, just over a year or so. In the last year, we've been able to purchase 5 properties, and we'll talk to you more about how we did that, how we financed them and everything later in the video, but that will give you a better idea. So yeah.
Should we say the winners of the ebook?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so the first winner that we want to give the ebook away to, we want to give it to all of you guys, actually. Like, we got so many messages, but maybe we'll do more giveaways in the future. So go follow us on Instagram, because we'll put it there most likely. So the first winner is Christopher Willett. You've been a subscriber, I'm pretty sure, on the main channel for the longest time. I think maybe the first few thousand. So thank you for all your support. We've seen you throughout our YouTube journey in the comments and supporting us. So we wanted to give one away to you.
Yeah, thanks for being a subscriber.
Yeah, and then the second winner we want to give away to Jennifer Lava or Lava. I've messaged you both on Instagram, but yeah, we wanted to give it away to you too. So yeah, thanks for getting into the competition and subscribing to this channel.
Hope you enjoy it, hope you get some value. Make sure to send us a message back, see how you're getting on with everything in there. And once again, if you do want to get a copy, it's down in the description. We put it at a low price point anyway, because we want as many of you to be able to access it as possible. And now let's get on with the Q&A.
First question is, how do we finance these properties? Do we buy cash or mortgage?
Yeah, so for us, we use mortgages on every one. Combination of 10% mortgages when we first started, more on that in a minute, and then also 25% buy-to-let mortgages. Now, that isn't to say mortgage is the best way to do it or the worst way. Everyone has their own personal preference, but particularly when you're younger and when you're starting out, we could put enough down to get the deposit, but obviously buying cash is a whole new ballgame.
That's another thing. And just to clarify, the mortgages, so the 10% is a 10% deposit of the property value. Yeah, good point. And they were on residential mortgages, the ones we did at the very beginning. So this is when we bought it to live in it and do it up as a residential, it's called. And then the 25% deposit is when it's a buy-to-let deposit, which is in our company. Yeah.
Now, obviously, for the mortgage lenders, you need to do what you're saying you're going to do. So perhaps often we give advice, don't we? If it's your first property and you can get a residential mortgage, put 10% down, refurb the property and then sell it on.
Yeah, while living in it.
You can build your cash part.
You can't rent it out with a residential mortgage. Exactly. But that actually comes on nicely to question 2. Which is, can you explain how consent to let works on a residential mortgage?
Yeah, of course. So a consent to let is a permission given by the mortgage lender for you to rent that property out and continue on the same mortgage. So let's say you buy a residential property with a 10% mortgage, you live there for 6 months, and then you decide you want to go on a gap year and you want to travel, but you'd like to keep that property, but you don't have enough extra cash available to top up an extra 15% and have it as a 25%. So the lender will allow you to have a consent to let. They'll grant this, and then you'll get to rent that property out and continue to pay the same mortgage payments. Now, it's important to note that not every lender will allow consent to lets.
So when you mentioned about the 15% that you would need to add in, that just is to confirm when you have a buy-to-let property, you need 25% equity. Hence, the buy-to-let deposits are 25%. So Yeah, consent to let allows you to just pay off the same mortgage payments because the mortgage lender still wants you to have a mortgage with them. I think an interesting fact actually is one of our mortgages, I think, was like 127,000.
Yeah.
But what we paid the bank over 30 years, I think the mortgage term was something like 230,000.
Yeah.
So you can see how the interest is definitely adds up over time.
Lastly, on consent to let, we've done that on one property with Nationwide, and they charge.
No, NatWest.
NatWest was it? Oh, sorry, I get confused with them all. NatWest, and that is a yearly fee. Is it
£100 or something?
Around £100 yearly fee for that consent to let. And it's important to note that not every lender will do it. So if it is something you want to do or you want to consider, make sure to find out from your financial advisor or lender if they're likely to offer that as well.
Another question was, what's our opinion on the London market? I thought that was quite interesting because we do a lot of tours in London.
Yeah, for sure. The London market is interesting. It's its own market in itself.
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
Absolutely crazy in a way, just because of how expensive certain postcodes can be, and the fact that it's a fairly small area. Obviously, it's very dense. The demand is huge. The demand is huge for foreign investors, or it has been over the last 10, 15, 20 years, and that's why the prices are so high.
There's a lot of people that do still invest in London.
There's good opportunities.
Again, obviously the price is more expensive, but again the rent is higher too.
Often the yield's a lot lower.
Yeah, the yield's not as good, but obviously you could look at the potential capital appreciation in London. England's not getting any bigger. More people are coming and wanting to move to London. So
I think the main thing with London is the barrier to entry as an investor is so much higher, which makes it so difficult for anyone really with normal wealth or even a job.
Isn't it like the average salary doesn't go up as much as the average price in London, so it's like harder and harder to get on. You also got the 90-day rule if you're considering doing something like Airbnb or short-term let in London, so you can only rent out a property short-term for 90 days per year. That obviously decreases the return on investment from that. So let's just put it out there, like, we don't have experience investing in London. No, we don't.
So if that is something you want to do, maybe find someone who has.
We've seen some crazy houses though in London.
We've met a lot of people that own houses in London, obviously with our main channel, from 10, 20 million pound apartments.
They're rich.
Yeah.
Like, this is just one of their houses.
To investors that buy 15 to 20 of brand new apartments in a London skyscraper. Hundreds of millions. So there's investment out there for everyone.
Next question is, do you and Matt have a deal sourcing service?
Okay, so I guess the basic answer is no. We've done some deal sourcing in the past. We've worked with a few investors, but it isn't something that we carried on, primarily because we built the YouTube channel and that's what we love doing, but also because we wanted to invest in our own properties. I
think it got to a point where there was a time where we had enough knowledge and experience now and personal money that if a really good deal came up, we would either want to keep it for ourselves or do something like a joint venture. Whereas when you first start, it's great to get a bit of knowledge and cash in the bank for selling deals onto investors and doing all the viewings for them, the negotiating.
It's a great service. If any of you watching this aren't familiar, let's explain what it is. So a deal sourcing, or often referred to as deal packaging service, is where you'd go out there and you'd find a investment property, a good deal. And by good deal, maybe it has room to renovate and sell for a profit, or it's a high rental return.
Some investors just want to buy to lets. They don't always have to be like 25% below market value.
It doesn't have to be the deal of the century. It depends on your investor.
Yeah.
So you would then sell that on to that investor for a fee, usually somewhere around £2,500. Could be more if it's a great deal, but on average it's a couple of thousand.
And just to clarify the work that you do, you don't just send them like Rightmove links.
No, there's no value in that.
Go and do all the viewings. You go and do the negotiating. Sometimes you can charge extra if you manage all the refurb, but if you haven't been searching for a property, especially if you're looking for a good deal, there's a lot of time that goes into viewings. Driving to the viewing about 5 to 10, And
you've got cash-rich, time-poor investors out there that just don't have the time to do that, but they still want to be investing. Perhaps they're in a big corporate London job.
Their time is worth more doing what they do rather than going on a viewing.
It's a great place for someone that's young to start, because often young people, they have very little cash but they have a lot of time, so you're just making that trade-off. So good starting point. Now the next question is, when looking for an investment property, how do you find the best property on
worst property on the best street?
Got that wrong, didn't I?
So we've talked about this before, but when we're looking for properties, we always try and look for the worst house on the best street, mainly because you want to have a street where there's not a low ceiling price and there's houses sold for a lot higher than what you're going to buy. So when you do the refurb, your surveyor, when he comes round to you, or if you sell it again or refinance it, you can see that a house 3 doors down sold for a lot more, rather than trying to set a ceiling price.
For sure. Most often the best buy is the smallest house but on the best plot or in the best area. So when we mean worst house, we perhaps mean something that's run down, something that's gone through probate, which is where someone's died at the house, usually an older person, so the property needs modernising. Old windows, just needs a general refurb. It needs a tidy up. And so by buying that property instead of the shiny nice new one, that shiny nice new one on the street, there's a ceiling price. It can't go any higher, because at the next higher price point, that buyer will go into a nicer neighbourhood. So that's really the reason.
And really just finding these properties is one thing that really surprised me when we first started, is when you drive around and you're going to work and you're on autopilot, you kind of don't see these properties. But say if you spent an hour with your partner and thought, right, we're going to go out now with a few little letters and actually look at every house on every street, and all of a sudden, don't you find
you see them just being consciously aware? I'm sure many of you have heard this before. Reticular activation system. Perhaps you're looking for a new car and you go into the dealership and you look at a BMW 3 Series. The next week you'll start seeing that car everywhere, and that can be the same with properties. If you're just consciously aware that you're looking for rundown houses, how do I identify that? Perhaps it's got an older roof, older windows. What does the condition of the garden look like at the front? And then as you're driving around, you see one, and then you can drop a quick letter in, like the example from our template. Even knock the door. That's how you start to find these properties, really. And identifying the good street, perhaps you could find an area where it's got a lot of upcoming new development, or perhaps there's a great school nearby. I think just somewhere where more money is going into, people are moving to.
I think if you're looking to invest in your town, you will kind of know which are the nicer streets, which are the not so nice streets, and kind of identify those areas. So for us, it's closer to the train station, closer to the town centre, maybe near a
most
park.
Towns, really.
There's like nicer areas, aren't there?
And then you find the property in there. So I hope that answers that question.
Next question.
Let's see what other questions I've got. All right, so the next question is, should I start by renting out apartments or renting out houses? Love your videos, keep it up. So thank you very much for that comment and that question. I think it's a good one. I think it's something a lot of people might be thinking about. Now, I'm going to say it depends, mostly on the area that you're in and perhaps the budget that you have available as well. So if you're in a more dense populated area like a city, there's going to be a lot of apartments available. That might be an easier strategy for you. But if you're in a more rural area, then houses might be best. So quickly, I think the two key things to think about are houses are often freehold, which means that you own the land the property sits on as well as the actual house. And apartments are leasehold, meaning you don't own the land. That's owned by the management company or the developer. They retain that, and then you own the individual apartment. Apartments are also, they have service charges, which is like a yearly or monthly payment for the upkeep of the area. And then the ground rent is because you don't own the land. So there are two extra charges that are going to eat into your potential profit. So if you're looking at it as an apartment, make sure to really check what those figures are.
I feel like as well, people that do apartments, it's more like serviced accommodation.
I think so too. I think that's the way to go.
For that.
You have to. So if you're going to do an apartment and rent it out short term through something like Airbnb or Booking.com, that's like short term, you need to check the lease, because a lot of them don't allow that. And then the last thing you want to do is be stuck with an apartment. You plan to do an Airbnb, you've got great vision for it, it turns out you're not actually able to do it.
And also check with your mortgage lender too, because sometimes you need special, you just need to tell them more special mortgages for different things like HMOs or short-term lets, holiday lets, or
I honestly think it depends on your area, because I could say invest in houses, but in your area the lowest price house is $500,000, and it's very difficult to get into. We've gone for
houses, haven't we? I think we definitely would like to I don't know, I'd never rule out buying an apartment in the future.
I think we want to own apartments in the future as Airbnb, so we're going to do both. But I think if I had to start somewhere, I'd probably try and buy a house, an older house, because you're likely going to be able to add more value.
Oh God, sorry. Yeah.
Because apartments aren't that old, they typically don't have as much room for improvement. You might be able to do a new kitchen or new flooring, but if you can find a house and you can completely renovate it, it's probably best.
But again, if you're an investor and you don't want to do any renovations and you just want to buy loads of properties or a few properties and have nothing go wrong, not that new builds have anything, sometimes they go wrong, but some investors just buy new build apartments, new build houses, because
our future vision is to build apartment buildings, starting on a small scale, maybe 5 or 10 apartments, and then working our way up from there. So it really depends on where you're at, but hopefully that gives you some guidance. Mainly just look at the lease, check the service charge prices, find out how long is left on the lease as well, because you know, if it's anything less than around 85 years, it's going to be really hard to mortgage or resell. Ideally you want something as close to a virtual freehold as possible, which is like 999 years on the lease.
So is it 85 years? You can't get a mortgage on it, which
it's more difficult.
Oh, it's more difficult. And as soon as it's cash buyers only, you're chopping the price down a little bit, aren't you?
But there is money to be made in buying apartments cash with low leases, extending the lease, and then selling them on. But again, a little more complex, and it does require you to have cash. But something to learn about if that interests you.
Do you want to do one of your questions?
Let's see what we've got. Any more questions? We've got quite a few. So here's one, which is quite relevant to where we are. Obviously, we're in Marbella, Spain, filming this video. So post-Brexit, is there a limit on time a UK citizen can spend annually in a Spanish property? So we'll just do this quickly, as it won't be relevant to a lot of people.
Oh yeah. So basically, I spoke to a lady yesterday.
A lawyer.
A lawyer, sorry. Not yesterday either. That was, I don't know why I said that.
We've spoken to a lawyer last week.
And she said that you can spend 90 days every 6 months here. So basically 3 months every 6 months.
Yeah.
So if you don't want a visa or a residence visa or whatever, you can come here for 3 months and you have to go somewhere else for 3 months, then you can come back here for 3 months.
Yeah. That lawyer was also a real estate agent. That's why we spoke with her. We're not planning on living here long term. That just happened to come up in conversation. I know some people will be wondering that. What other questions have you got on that?
Is it better to get a job as an estate agent or start deal sourcing as a beginner? Interesting.
What are your thoughts on that?
I think if you want an definite income and you don't have any savings behind you to keep you going for like the next 6 months as like setting up your own business, I'd probably start off being an agent, because you do learn how the property market works and you do pick up good bits of knowledge, especially if you're actively putting yourself out there. You could maybe ask to go on valuations with like the listing agent and really just like putting yourself out there to learn. But again, if you're wanting to start a deal sourcing business and you kind of know how to find investors and you're prepared to put yourself out there, you're prepared to not make any money for 3 to 6 months, but hustle really hard, I don't know. I think it really depends.
I think they're great points. My strategy probably, and what we would do, is we would be agents and then deal source on the side. But again, it depends.
You have to do it in a different area.
You have to do it in a different area, So, but I mean, it depends on your work ethic and how much you want anything. Like us, we do Monday to Friday as an estate agent and Saturday and Sunday deal sourcing. But not everyone wants to do that, so it really does depend. But the benefit of doing that is you're building up that experience as an estate agent whilst having a consistent income that you can save up. And you're also getting experience finding deals, because finding deals, you might find 2 in 1 month and then you might find none for another 3. So it's not consistent. Whereas if you're doing them both at the same time,
well, I think it would be consistent if you were doing it like.
But I think it's good to manage expectations of people young starting, that I don't want people to think I can go out and find 5 deals in my first month.
I think as well to remember that it could be 3 months until you find your first investor. Who's
and then it could be 6 months before the actual sale goes through.
Exactly.
That's how long it takes. But you could do it faster.
But again, maybe have a consistent income and then do it on the side, and then once you've got a few investors in your books, you can transition from full-time estate agent to full-time deal sourcer,
and then save that income up and buy your first property. Could be a good way.
There are some deal sourcers that we've met who they have like an investor that they work for a year, say that investor will buy like 10 properties a year.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a different one each time.
Yeah, which is the best type of investor, because one, you get to know them, and you are just buying them properties like that.
You trust them. Yeah, exactly. No, good question.
Next question, how much do you think you will need for your first flip? So one, it depends on area and the house price.
And how much work it needs, of course.
Yes.
But let's put some figures out there. So when we were doing the flips, we were kind of looking at the price range of 120 to 150,000, I would say. So if you're able to get a 10% mortgage on that amount, then that would be around 15,000 as a deposit.
On a 150,000
on a 150,000 pound house, 100%.
Yeah. So you could, ideally, if you want, can get a mortgage by yourself, but obviously that's sometimes quite difficult. So if you've got a partner you can do the mortgage with, or somebody else on the mortgage, they can take joint salaries.
Someone that you trust.
Yeah, someone that you trust.
That's
for sure.
important. And then let's say the property needs, or we always recommend to start with a fairly simple refurb, perhaps new kitchen, new flooring and redecoration, maybe new bathroom as well. Wouldn't dive too much into something that needs maybe a loft extension, a ground floor extension, or structural works. So all of that you can spend around 15 to 20,000 again.
And if you can do it yourself, I know a lot of people message us and they're like, builders do it themselves, you could probably do it for like 10,000.
Yeah, if you're doing it yourself, then less. For sure. Yeah.
So I would say anything from 25 to 30,000. And again, if you're living in the property and you can pay as you go.
Yeah, you don't have to have it all at once.
Mainly focus on obviously getting your deposit money all saved. So put savings away every month. We were very religious with our savings. Like, rather than putting savings away at the end of the month and what you've got left, once you've got your money in, if you can, I know not everyone's in a position to, but put savings away first.
Pay yourself first. You're the most important thing in your
work
life.
out obviously what you need for your living and bills, but there's a lot of things I'm sure you could potentially cut out if you look back at your last 3 month statements. How much money did you spend on going out and food and drink? How much did you spend on coffees?
Yeah, exactly. So say around 25,000 in that price range. But obviously if you go in a high price range where the property needs a lot more work, that could soon add up. But definitely have a budget. It's very important to have a budget and calculate everything that the property needs before you go ahead and buy it. You don't want to be getting unforeseen costs, or minimizing that as much as possible. Get a survey as well to make sure it's not structurally
I will say though, your first flip, you'll definitely learn so much. So if things do go wrong, I mean, we've got a property at the moment that's going a bit, we'll share that more with you in another video, but you'll definitely learn so much along your own journey. And I think if you've put 25 to 30 in with the refurb deposit, and you hopefully can make 20 to 30,000 profit, you've now doubled your cash pot, and then you could maybe look at a property with a 50,000 pound deposit. That's a bigger project, and you can kind of do a few flips. And
the benefit of doing that to start with as well is you'll pay minimal to no stamp duty if you're a first time buyer and it's your only property. And you also pay minimal capital gains tax as well. It slightly depends on your income brackets, personal situation, but certainly as a residential home or your only property, it will be less, because there's certain allowances each year that you can go up to. So that will help you out hopefully as well. So we've got another question here, which is, what is the best way to connect with investors? That kind of relates back to our deal sourcing, deal packaging conversation we had earlier. So I certainly think that the best way is social media. Obviously, we're a bit biased with that because that's how we have done everything, and that's where our, I guess, business and skills lie now. But I do think that it's a great no barrier to entry point, very easy to get started. You can literally start filming vlogs on your phone. It doesn't even have to be a fancy phone. You can upload, and like, these social media apps are free. That's crazy. Like, you can advertise your business, you can advertise yourself, and it's free. Why don't you just start? And I think that's the best way to attract investors. Like, even if it's just you want to be a deal sourcer, you're going around, just vlog what you're up to, vlog viewing properties, and soon you'll get people message you like,
there's a really cool, I keep seeing her videos. Let me get her Instagram up. If you want to go check this girl out, she does loads of cool videos outside of houses. It's ko_estates. And
on
Instagram, and I think she does TikTok. They're like TikTok style videos. But they're cool, and I'm sure she attracts a lot of investors doing that. And LinkedIn, there's lots of investors on LinkedIn. Asking every single person you meet and
that's
know.
the most important thing. Family, friends, just people that you react with. If you put out there to the universe what you're doing, you'll attract back what you want.
Because if you just bring it up in conversation, even if you're meeting some people that you don't really know, or it's your friend's friend, just get into conversation with them, and if they ask you what you're up to, be like, I'm finding properties for investors. They might say, oh, I'm looking to buy a property, can you help me? And you just have to really network and put yourself out there. A lot of what we've done with luxury tours and finding these owners and stuff, we've really as well put ourselves out there. Once you find one person, you can ask them to connect you with another person that they're friends with. And for us, we've met developers through other developers.
We're very thankful in the UK that it's a country where a lot of people, I don't mean a lot, but quite a few people are able to invest in a property, usually when they're older, like retirement age. I mean, compared with a more third world country where there might be 1% of the population that invest in property, UK actually quite a lot of people do, or at least they want to. So you probably find that as you start to speak to more people, whether it's your close friends and their friends and family, you will find some people, especially if you go for like the 40-year-old plus the baby boomers.
Because a lot of people as well, they sometimes do have money just sitting in the bank as savings, and doesn't your money go down against inflation sitting in the bank?
Essentially money that you've got in cash is going down in value on inflation, or the interest rate is so low, like 0.1%, that it's actually depreciating, whereas they could put it in property, perhaps make 5 to 10%, fairly simply, and then earn that back. But also, I think finally a good point to make is find the deals, and the investors will follow. If you have a product that is worth it, or like someone wants it in the marketplace, you will attract buyers. Get the product first, which for you is the house, the deal. Find that deal, put it out there, speak to people, and then obviously you can find the deal.
There's two ways of doing it, I guess. You can find, if you're better at finding deals and know so much about that and can do that really well, go and get them. But if you've got potential network of 5 people or 1 or 2 people that want to buy properties, speak to them and get them to tell you what type of property they want to buy, and then go and look for the property for them.
I think networking is just a very, very important skill. That's how we've been able to build our YouTube channel. We get asked all the time about how we've been able to film these houses, and it really is just networking. Like, we'd start by meeting one agent, and we'd talk to them, we'd explain it, we'd show them value. That would lead us into another opportunity, another.
There's Facebook groups you can join for free. We used to go to I don't know if they're on anymore because of the COVID stuff, but like networking events at 8 p.m. We would go at 8 p.m. and it would be you'd just start talking to people, and it was
like the youngest ones.
It would be I think we were 18, 19 at the time, and it was just oh god, I cringe at myself so much when I think back at those times.
It's good. It's good.
Just got to put yourself out there, and it was interesting.
Hope that helps.
That's basically it. Just honestly, even now we reach out to people to try and get tours booked in. We get rejected all the time and ignored and stuff. That just happens with putting yourself out there, but don't get put off by that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Last question we're going to talk about is, what are the negatives of property investing, or what do we find has been the negative thing about it?
Yeah, I think that's really important to talk about, because like any investment or any opportunity, there's always two sides of it. I think the main negatives is the barrier to entry and how hard it is to get started. I do think for sure, in the UK, to be able to get a mortgage on your own, to be able to get that first step on the property ladder, I mean, people talk about it all the time, but I do believe that is why you have to be prepared to sacrifice so much to start with.
Because I think it's important to clarify with mortgages, the more you have on finance, the more you haven't paid credit cards off, or if your credit score is not as good, the less you can get lent. So the better your credit score is, the better you don't have as many, finance outgoings every month. But mortgages we've went through a lot of hurdles with mortgages. We would find an amazing property and then it wouldn't even be mortgageable, so you have to look at different options like bridging or raise the cash to buy it.
But it has been worth it so much. It's just getting through that first one, so it definitely is positive. I'm not putting it down on it in that sense, but I do think it's
it's not all rainbows.
You do have to be prepared to make some sacrifices to get started. I think a lot of people now want to just learn how to do it and be
Yeah.
able to just get on with it. But yeah, you do. And then I think the other thing is the maintenance of properties, like
yeah.
especially old houses, like in the UK, terrace houses, there is always things
Going
that need
wrong.
repairing, whether it's the boiler,
The tap not working. Just
or you're
really
getting
little
window
things.
problems, condensation,
Yeah.
damp. So you've got to make sure that the deal adds up to make sure that if you're spending money on those things, it is still worth it
Yeah.
for you, I think, for sure. And that's why I do believe balancing your portfolio and investing into a few different asset classes, like buying stocks, mutual funds, even crypto and everything like that now. But at the same time as saying that, I don't think you want to be chasing rainbows and like, what's it called?
Doing
Shiny
loads-
object
yeah, doing
syndrome,
loads
where
of
you're trying to do
different
everything at once. I think it's better to master something. Like for us, we mastered investing in property, and then we started to invest in other things.
Yeah.
And that suited us. But everyone has their own journey, and the journey is the most important thing. I think that's the last thing I would add. We've
Yeah.
been very guilty in the past of just wanting to get to here, because like, okay, that's when we can start enjoying it, or if we just
Yeah.
had this, we'd be happy. And actually, you do find as you become more successful, not saying that we're completely there yet, but we've definitely
No.
improved, that the process is actually
I think
reward.
it's hard when you don't feel like you're doing good to enjoy
Especially
the
with social
journey.
media, every time you look on, there's so many people
Yeah.
who are posting about everything they're doing, and it's their highlight reel, and you can seem like their life is so incredible, and that can make you feel bad about yourself.
It's such a highlight reel.
Yeah,
social
we try
media.
and post a balance of things. I mean, obviously, a lot of our content is the luxury stuff because of the channel.
We
but
post our
wanna be
property
real.
investments to really try and inspire people.
Yeah.
I'd hate to come
And I
across.
hope we have.
We get so many messages saying that we've inspired people to invest, and
Yeah.
we would never want to come across like, I don't
Look
know.
at us. This is what
Yeah.
we've got. It's not.
I mean,
like that.
we share a $7,000 golf now,
Yeah.
but I know, but that's because our priority has always been to just get these investments, and we want to buy our dream car when we're in our dream location, don't we?
Location. Yeah, that's the most important thing.
But yeah, nice little chit chat.
Yeah, and I think one last thing perhaps to add is, especially if you're young watching this, is to really just spend some time thinking about what you want your life to be like later on. And I think that if you can start to ask yourself that question and then figure out from there, you've got that goal, how do I get there, break it down.
I don't even think you need to be young. Like,
No, not
if
at
you
all.
wanna
I just mean the
change-
younger you do it, the
Yeah.
more advantage you've got. Because I think a lot of people figure that out later.
I think it's definitely harder to invest once you've maybe had kids, or you've now,
Yeah.
you know, got a lot more ties. We were very lucky that we tried to not tie ourselves down at all.
Yeah.
So I understand it's a little harder the older you get, because you get more, what's it called? The word.
Kind of like rooted to a location, or
Yeah.
rooted to a life, or you've got a lot of
Yeah.
other things going
Lot
on, a
more
lot of
outgoings.
expenses, like family, kids,
Yeah.
everything you say like that.
So yeah, the younger you can start, it's never too late. Saying that, I think you can change your life whatever age you're at, but the younger you can start, definitely the better.
My rule is, as long as I was a better version of myself today than yesterday, and that is essentially all
Yeah.
that matters. It's only you versus you in life.
Yeah.
So I hope this has been useful. If you watched to the end of this video, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Please do
Yeah.
take some time to hit the like button, because something so simple as ding means a massive amount to us. So
Helps the
do
algorithm.
that. Do that. And if you're not subscribed, do subscribe already.
Yeah, have
Yeah.
you pressed the subscribe button? Ding! Thank you.
Yeah. Now see what other videos are on
Wait, we're
YouTube
going to do a
selection to
general
watch.
Q&A.
Yes, we are.
So make sure you look out for that video, because there's a
Coming
lot of
soon.
random questions that wasn't to do with property that we're gonna do a video on, aren't we?
Yeah, perfect timing. Battery is low. Love you guys. See you
Bye.
soon. Bye.